Meeting to order. Start off with roll call. I'm Rich Stork, Chair.
I'm Dean Gonzalez, Treasurer.
Matt Anderson, Board Member.
Scott Fowler's Board Member.
Sue Means, Board Member.
Tina Heidelberger, Clerk.
Okay, we're going to move right on to the approval of the minutes from the June 4th meeting. I have a couple of corrections.
Okay.
The property up to the north, I think we should, describe it as what the legal name is of it. I think it's Woods Family Trust, I believe, up there,
Okay.
property. And then the second thing I had was, in the new business, about the fireworks. It looks like we approved up to 250, but I think it was gonna be decided on, based on a survey, correct? If we were gonna donate for fireworks,
Yep.
can we make that correction?
Yep.
And then we'll talk about what kind of results we had from that.
And then the night out is changed to Friday,
Yep.
August 9th.
Is there any other corrections that needed to be made?
On the motion to adjourn, my name is, I got a couple of letters added to it.
Okay. Is that?
How would you even say that?
And down the money.
Beautiful. Any others? With that, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move right into the wastewater update from Terry Peterson and LLJ. If he's ready.
Well, I'm still trying to do maths. Go ahead if you want to do something else. Give me about 15 minutes yet.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to
I'm
Terry.
a little busy.
Terry's been busy this month, quite a bit busy, so we'll move into the chairman update. One of the things, or the big thing that was going on, well, the past month is, of course, we had a tree that went down this month. So we worked hard to come up with a decision to take care of that tree with help from Andy Shannon and a couple other bids. I think we reacted, pretty quick on the scenario and got that tree cleaned up. And I appreciate the patience from the residents down there. We just wanted to, double check our liabilities and where we really stood with our insurance. So we did, over that week and a half period, we all kind of jumped right into it. Some people checked on the insurance, some people checked with legal. We also had Chris from MAP come up with that hold harmless letter, I think, which he pulled off of the League of Minnesota Cities, which I think is a real good form that we should have. And then basically, legal came up and said, yeah, that we are pretty well covered with liabilities if we do get that signed. So that was one of the things that happened this month. The other thing that was kind of happening this month is Terry and I I can say Terry really took on the heavy lifting. I shot off the letter. It's our permit, the issue with our permit needs to be the reissuance of our operating MPCA permit for the sewer system. It's been kind of in limbo since 2015. That was the last time that permit was issued. Again, I think they kick that permit out every 5 years. It kind of went in limbo with the possible expansion. But they did come back at us and say, it's time to get our permit back in order and get a new working permit for the Shorewood Park Sanitary District. So they did ask us, they gave us 60 days to comply to that request and kind of write up a new plan for what our permit would be. So Terry's been working really hard doing the research, contacting the different people at the MPCA. I did have a conversation with HR Green on how that should happen. They could help us with that also. But Terry is kind of reassuring us that, or me, that we could probably do that without getting the engineer involved at that cost. So I think he's gonna put up a rough draft for us to kind of take a look at. I think we kind of formed a committee already. I think we'll get together with the committee and kind of take a look at that with the help of Tina. We'll try to get together. We talked about having a special meeting and try to write that permit. And then we'll get a draft put together and maybe have, HR Green just take a look at it at that point instead of having them actually write the permit. That permit will include the plan to treat for phosphorus. We are gonna have to treat for phosphorus and meet some regulations for phosphorus. The big talk earlier in the expansion was that we would have to dig another pond for that, but that's not true. There was a huge cost to acquire some new land, dig another 2-acre lot or a pond just to treat for phosphorus. But we don't need to do that. We can treat the phosphorus in our ponds, and Terry's got a tentative plan to do that. There will be some costs that we're gonna have to budget for that. But basically, I think we basically have to treat every time we discharge. So that could be typically 2 times a year, or depending on if it's a real wet year, there might be a third possibly, but I don't think we really discharge more than 3 times.
No, 2 should be fine, but, yeah, and it's been a wet year and we can hold our own, so.
Right. So I think, once we talk about that, we get into October and we start talking about budgeting, and it's something that, we'll have to decide. I think there may, based on, some of the preliminary costs that he's coming up with, I think we have some monies that we can shift around for that, but we'll take that business up a little bit later, and we'll kind of talk about maybe what the costs are when we get to where Terry's at. So that's basically what's been happening this month. Can't think of anything else on the outside that we need to talk about right now. I think those are the big things. I did put out the letter, and I think the thing that we really, really need to concentrate on is, because now we're getting down to like 30 days, is getting that permit taken care of. But I think Terry's got a pretty good track with it right now.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful.
Yep.
The guy that I've been talking to.
All right. You let me know when you're ready. We'll keep moving on.
I'll finish this up later. I'll have to send you numbers later. I'm just trying to figure out how our flow is. It's high. It's
Yeah.
high, but I don't have it exactly figured out yet.
Okay, I'll let you work on that. And then when we get back to you, you can kind of just fill us in a little bit more on some of the research that you did, how many different people you had to talk to, and all that other stuff. All right, we're gonna move right into financial update.
All right, as of today, our current checking account balance was $64,649.82. That is down over $30,000. We've had about $30,000 in expenses this past month. The investment fund balance was at $211,408.29. That was as of May 31st. We are receiving those statements at our updated address now at the pump house. And our investment cash value balance was $25,244.16 as of the 31st of May. I did provide an updated budget with our expenses from the past month. If anyone has any questions about that information, but I think, let me pull that up here. It looks like our total expenses this month were $34,516.96.
And the big ticket item was?
The road repairs, that was $27,625. We also had the MPCA last month, the League of Minnesota Cities for $1,839. Rasmussen Lawn Services, that was another $1,600. We had let me see, did we have, that was it. We didn't have any lawyer bills last month, but this month we do have some, so.
Okay.
We are ticking upwards in our expenses. We had we were kind of stagnant with what we were spending there for a while, but getting to be more now as we're getting into the summer,
So
so.
it's just, historically, this is where it really kind of happens, right?
Yep, but we were lucky because we didn't have any plowing expenses,
Yeah.
which was quite unusual, so. Any questions so far about that information?
How do you know, I was gonna ask some questions about, especially Rasmussen's, does he breaking that bill down?
He does, yep, and you'll see that when I pass out the bill here. He does show, like, for the upper small park already mowed, like, he indicates $0 because it was already done.
Okay,
He does not, it's all included in one bill though now for the ponds, so that's not separated out in here.
I guess that's my question, because we've kind of, do we want him to separate that based on how we've got buckets set up?
We can, or I can just break it out as well, because he does show which ones are the ponds.
Okay, I think we should break those two up at least, and then we can put them in like underneath parks.
Okay,
And then, at parks, we've got repair and maintenance and then mowing, so if we can at least get that number in there, we can kind of see what we are paying for that mowing.
so I'll probably separate it out for him just because I don't know if he's gonna know, you know what I mean, just,
Yep.
it might be
And I
easier
think-
that way.
I think if the number's just a rough number based
Yep.
on what you see, I think we'll be pretty good about that. I
Yep.
think that'll just show more clarity.
Tina, do you have any idea how many times he has mowed?
Yep, let's see here. The week of the 5th, the 11th, the 19th, the 20th, and the 26th. So a total of $1,983 this month. Last month it was $1,600. So, we're gonna be looking at about $2,000, a month, having mowed.
Until,
Probably September, I would guess. If not even, depending upon weather, I mean, we could be looking at,
Yeah, rainy season, more mowing, it's just gonna be just like
our yard.
plowing and so on and so forth. So hopefully the two can offset themselves one way or the other. But I think we should at least track on that plow or that
Okay.
mowing because it's a new expense. We kind of want to see where that's going.
Quick comment on that. It sounds like he's mowing every week. Is he mowing the ponds every other week and parks every other week, or?
So he mowed the pond the 5th, the 11th, let's see here, the 20th, and the 26th. So he is mowing the ponds once a week as
Okay.
well. And that is $119.90 each time he mows at the ponds. But that's something that we've always had him do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how many times did he mow the park?
3, 4, 5 times.
So that's every week too.
Yep.
So he was told to mow every other week. That's what we agreed on, and that's what he was told. So we need to contact him.
I wonder if he's gonna want it, he might give us some pushback on that because that might be an issue for him as far as like equipment.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they'll say we won't do, like he's not gonna wanna do it because of the amount of grass that's gonna be there. I'll have to ask him. I mean, I can certainly pose it to him and say, hey, can we,
That makes sense, it depends on if it's longer, it takes them longer.
yeah,
Then it's harder on the equipment. But let's just ask the question.
okay.
I think we kind of understood there's going to be additional mowings early in the spring.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we talked about, so.
Yeah, we just weren't planning on it being this wet,
Right.
this late, so.
I mean, it's something that we're gonna have to deal with and, adjust the budget at budget time. Again, it's something new that we brought in, so, we have time to correct it if we have to correct it, but I think it's been looking great myself, so.
I think it looks great. I just don't want to double what we promised our constituents that we were going to be paying on this, We're paying them $1,200 a month as opposed to $600. That's a big deal.
We're paying $1,900, yeah, I mean, this was,
For just the parks, though.
yep. So any other questions, or should I move on to the presentation of the bills?
Move on.
I have one more question.
Sure.
A little bit on the payment system that we're using now.
Yep,
You had said that financials are coming to the mailbox. Are we supposed to switch Are payments going to the PO box and that lot stuff?
Nope, not right now, because technically, we still have we have all the envelopes that are still addressed to the PO box, so we want to use those up anyways. We won't make any changes for that until then. But if you're mailing a check, yes, it's still going to the PO box, and that's fine.
Okay.
Or you can drop it in the payment box.
Right.
So, because yeah, your check comes from your
That's
bank
from the
directly.
bank, yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
why I asked, because we need to change the address with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to do it yet, just because
Okay.
we have 2 cases of envelopes that are postage paid already that we want to use up. So,
So based on that, if we get for like 6 months, another year?
well,
Depends.
it could be a full year, just because more residents are paying online and getting their bills online.
Yeah.
So, which is a good thing.
Yep, we're moving, trying to do it in the right place. All right, I just asked the question.
Yep.
They could be used for other things too.
Yeah. Well, some of them are envelopes and some of are, like the ones that are the postage paid, that the bills go out in, have the window on them.
Oh,
So that's, yeah. All right, presentation of the bills. East Central Energy, our bill was $176.45. That is an automatic draft from our account. We have a bill from MTVL, which is Minnesota Valley Testing Labs. That was for $122.75. As I mentioned, Rasmussen was $1,983.97. LJJ wastewater, $1,700. And then Terry, can you have Debbie send me an invoice? Can you text her for me? Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, is it Ledin or Ledeen?
I don't know, I think it's Len.
Okay, so
Ledeen.
Ledin and Hofstad
It's Ledeen.
is,
It's Ledeen?
Yeah.
it is, okay, Ledeen and Hofstad is $1,777.50. That was for 2 different invoices. Some of them were communication with Rich about the storm damage and cleanup. Some of it was on working on stuff with Chad Lemons, our previous legal counsel. And then questions about the annexed properties. So a little bit of everything, but we're gonna have to separate those out if
Yep.
any of it has to do with the expansion.
Yep.
HR Green, we have a bill for $3,084.50. Those are 2 different statements.
Did they break it out?
No. It just says professional EPA paperwork for both of them is what it has.
Okay, so both EPA paperwork, that's gonna be expansion work.
Okay. And then the $45 for QuickBooks online reimbursement to me, and then tree removal to Andy Shannon for $1,800. Any questions or changes?
I've got that other tree down in the park that was broken off by the bird pile. It had to come down. So I don't know if you want to address that today and be done with it. That was another $450. And I've got an invoice for the storm damage, the first 4 trees, and I've got a receipt for the additional tree also.
so that one's already down before.
It is, it had to be taken down, it was broken off and leaning against another tree.
Do we have copies of those invoices?
I'm sorry?
Do we have copies of those invoices?
I don't yet, no.
Okay. Perfect. And these are our copies?
You can have that, Bill.
Okay. That one was already approved, that 1,800. We'll probably have to get a vote on the 450. And I'll wait for Matthew before we do that.
Yes, please.
While we're waiting for Matthew to be back, there's a couple more trees here that we should really look at. If they go down, they're gonna take out the power lines and hit a couple houses.
All right, let's get through the financial, we'll bring that up on new business, on the best way to approach that, I think. I was aware of those, so, and I'll let, I think you and Andy kind of looked at those, right? Yeah. Okay. And then maybe we'll talk about some, procedures that we'll follow and, how we're gonna do that. Maybe, put some budget bids together for us that we can work with and plan for. We're not gonna jump at everything at one time unless it comes down, but we'll have to approach them, worst case scenario type thing.
So am I including the 450, or we're gonna wait
Let's,
to vote on that?
yeah, let's wait to
Okay.
vote on that. We'll bring that down to when Matthew gets back here.
Okay.
And then, so we could probably move on and,
I just need a motion to approve.
So was the contract satisfied, I guess is my question.
Huh?
Was the contract satisfied? I guess that's the question.
for the original trees as per what Andy decided to knock down for the
Whatever you
$800.
guys decided to
So it
be
says,
able to do.
it says cut up and clean up 2 down trees, fell 2 trees that are half down, and hung up another trees, is it stack wood from trees and rows, pile and burn brush in designated park burn. Sorry.
And it's not 100% done, I'm gonna take off that other stump that's still hanging there,
Okay.
but it's, weather and work has been making it difficult. It'll be cleaned up, wrapped up within the next week and a half, I suppose.
Okay. As far as what you originally bid to us, I think there was some additional cost, possibly if you're gonna stump and then kick a tree in there, we didn't take that option of the $2,300. Based on what you bid, I think you've covered it, even if you're gonna knock that bigger stump down, I think.
I'm sorry, sorry.
I think if you're gonna knock that taller stump down and bring it down even with the other one, I think you've met. what
Well, I mean,
you
that was, it
originally
kind of
bid.
looks like
Yeah,
a sore thumb sticking out there, so.
yeah.
And then the stuff that's around it, that'll pretty much all be gone too. That's gonna be hauled up to the upper hill by the burn pile.
Yeah.
Again, that's available for everybody. Some of it's bigger because, again, if you notice, we've lost a couple of big sections of those trees because we happened to find out that there was a bunch of nails in them. And so that, unfortunately, that was just gonna get burnt in the burn pile because I'm not gonna keep tearing up chains.
No, I agree. I agree.
Then the second, or the additional tree, and I think Al maybe saw it, the one with all the woodpecker holes. I mean, at any time that could have came down, and if you got people mowing in the park, I mean, that's exactly what we were worried about with the 2 leaning trees from the windstorm, is having something fall, they had to come down regardless, so, I mean, if it's a matter of the way it was handled and in the fashion, I get it, but I would have taken it down either way, anyhow.
I trust that it had to come down. I don't question that. Al said the same thing. He kicked out an email, and I think Matthew did too.
I just don't want anybody else, I don't talk to a whole lot of people throughout the neighborhood,
Yeah.
where you talk to a few, and every now and again you get, well, maybe you started a little early, or, like in the case of that tree, well, you didn't get approval. Well, no, I didn't get approval because either way I was taking it down.
Yeah.
It was gonna land on somebody or land on somebody's property, and it wasn't gonna be good, so.
I personally think that was the right decision.
I just don't want anybody, if anybody asks, any of you, or any of you, the reason why I just went ahead and did it is because it had to be done,
Yeah.
regardless.
Or it was gonna fall down anyways. I think as far as the park goes, I mean, we're on the issue of it right now, and, we just have to come up with a plan to maintain. Do we always wait for the trees to come down? Or do you take some time and put some maintenance into it, budget some ideas of, I'm not, I don't know, what do you call a guy that takes care of trees, I'm not a tree guy, but I know that you should do some maintenance trees. You should bring the canopy up, you could clean it up, you know, how much time and effort do we want to put into it? How much money do we want to
Arborist.
spend? Arborist, thank you. I mean, I think that, I don't know if somebody goes around and they mark the trees and we talk about it, try to create some sort of a budget to get ahead of the problem. We haven't lost trees for a couple of years, but there's a lot of different ways that we can approach it, and I'm open for ideas. I don't think we have to come to that conclusion tonight, but I think, I appreciate what you did there. You stepped up and took care of it. There's two options. We can go out third party and do it, or keep it within the neighborhood. You seem to be the one to take care of it. I have no problem leaving it, in-house, basically.
I go back to the way things used to get done, to me, you get a couple people out there working together, and chances are there were people that maybe hadn't talked before, or didn't talk very often, but all of a sudden, you're there, you're working together, and you're kind of shooting the shit and getting to know each other a little bit better. And it's kind of, to me, that's kind of like a national night out thing. Some people can get out there and do it, some people can't.
Right.
But all in the end, people are talking.
Yep.
And that, to me, is a community which, in this world we all know, is a lost thing.
Again, I appreciated what you did. I appreciated Matt's help if he was out there. And we had a good conversation with him about it also, so. Again, I think it's just a matter of some more conversations on how we want to handle. I think that park needs more maintenance than any of the other parks. This small one below, there's no trees that are really a problem. The little park in front, down the lower part of the circle, there's nothing really there, too much to take care of. And we kind of stay ahead of that one too, so. It's just a matter of how we want to approach it. And I'm open for ideas. If we put some sort of a plan together we can work with, then we can kind of budget for it. And if a surprise happens and a tree comes down, we approach it the same way. If you're not available, we'll have to take bids. We're not going to leave it laying there. So if another tree comes down or something like that at that point. So.
Well, this particular tree that Andy was talking about is kind of a catch-22 because Andy's the one that's out there maintaining that fire pit. And he called me out there to go look at that tree.
Yep.
I mean, it was broken off, sitting on its own stem, unattached, and leaning up against the neighboring trees, and it was literally going like this, and it wasn't even windy.
Oh.
And so he took it down, and I can see why he took it down, because it was a danger to him being out there working on the fire pit. So it's kind of like
No, we kind of spoke about it. Right now, I'm just waiting for a motion to pay for that $450. That's where we're at right now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, you're just getting caught up, so.
Well, I'll first the motion to pay the extra to take the tree down, because it was no good. Anybody walking by there, it was an accident waiting to happen.
Okay.
I appreciate that he did that.
All right, can I get a second to that motion?
I'll second
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
As far as going forward with, the maintenance of the trees, et cetera, can we do like a sidebar and just have a discussion about that?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we know where to go along, like on board. We don't usually do just a board meeting.
No, I think that if some people want to get together and talk about it, I think that's the best way to approach it, right? Just like with you with the channels and stuff, let's get some sort of a written plan on how we want to approach it. And then that's something for us to work with as a board and to make decisions with everybody here on how we approach and take care of that trees. Because everybody's going to have some little bit of a, opinion on the best way to do that. So
I think we all did a really good job jumping on that. It only took us a few days to hammer it through. We all had different opinions about it. But we all came through the end and we agreed on the solution, and I think that,
I agree.
But you also just set a standard that every time a tree comes down, we're paying money for it, where we never had to do this before.
Well,
I don't.
go ahead, I'm
don't
sorry,
brag
Joyce, step
about it
on.
too much, so.
What's that?
I won't brag about it too much.
yeah, well, I like to reward somebody who took the safety into consideration for people that are walking by, and I just, it's kind of a 50-50 shot, like, do we leave it and let it come down on its own, or, you know, somebody goes out of their way to take it down, and do we want to reward that?
Well, I think that's
Kinda
what
like
we
the
need
carrot or the
going
stick, you know?
forward. Instead of reacting, we need to be proactive instead of reactive.
We have two options. Just like we handle the sewer, just like we handle the plowing. Really, the whole thing came around with liabilities, right? And what our insurance covers. Now, we can look into it and see if we can get a rider to cover, get us a little bit more coverage out there in that park. That would make it a little bit easier on us. Or we can continue to go to third parties who's, you know, that has a certificate of insurance and it's covered that way. That totally, you know, takes the liabilities out of us. As far as maintaining the park up there, can we go back to the old way? It's just, it's liabilities is the main thing. What are we gonna take on, right?
Yeah, and the way around that is we now have this waiver
Right.
that folks can sign. So when there's something that happens in the park, the folks that don't care to get paid for it can jump out into the park and take care of it, so that the board doesn't have to step up and pay somebody to do it. So that's the way around that. Right? So people who want to pay, then they need to get into the park and make sure they sign a waiver before they work in the park, and then do the work. Otherwise, we have to take care of it because we're legally responsible for taking care of the parks.
And I think, Sue, I think what you're saying is we should have a written plan of action to be able to react to it. Because what if 3-4 of us aren't here at a particular time and then we can just put that action in the plan?
You know, my whole purpose for getting involved in this and throwing my hat in the ring in the first place is because if we're gonna pay people for something like that,
Keep it in the park.
it should be somebody within the neighborhood that's willing and able to do it, rather than hiring an outside source.
And it's a lot of work.
And obviously, there's some things that, as residents, you're not capable of handling, so it has to be outsourced. But, you know, if you got people that are willing and able to do it and want to do it, it just makes more sense. I mean, everybody in the neighborhood's paying to live there, so why shouldn't, if somebody's willing and we have to pay somebody to do it, why can't somebody in the neighborhood get some of that back?
I agree. Totally agree. I guess it's just, how do we move forward? How do you guys want to move forward? How do we want to put a plan together? How do we get a written plan? So, you know, that's all, that's where we're at right now, I think.
Okay.
Hey, Alan, is that something that you'd be willing to do as the roads and parks guy?
You get a written plan up,
Yeah, just like a step-by-step that we can follow.
I can try to write something up and bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, then we can work with that. At least gives us a baseline to work off.
Thank you, sir.
Sounds like a good plan. All right, so that was kind of new business. We jumped down to the parks. Was there anything else on the parks? I think we covered pretty much our biggest issue.
Could we vote on the bills? Okay, good, the 450.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer.
Can I get a motion to pay the bills?
First,
I'll second that.
So we circled back down to number 7, and we paid all the rest of the bills. And then we approved the $450 for Andy, for the second removal of that fee. All right. Terry, are you ready yet?
Surely. What do you want?
Why don't you give us a report on how our flow was and how just the regular work went this month?
Flow was up, the average was 15,164 a day. The low was on 14 at 90, or 10,000 gallons even. And then the high was on the 17th, 3 days later, at 20,130 gallons.
Must have been a rainy day. Really
Yep.
did work.
Can you, Terry, I'm sorry, could you give me that first number again?
Nope. 15,164.
15,164, and that was the average?
That was average, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was down here twice in the last rainy period, just opening manholes. I pretty much opened every manhole that I could get to, just looking, and I didn't see nothing. That was weird. A little bit coming in right on the lower by the pond, right by the pump house, but beyond that.
Must be Well, I mean, you're measuring and it's going to the pumping station, so,
Yeah,
it's
going
gotta be
through.
getting there somewhere.
Yep, it's going through and, some buckets maybe, but that's only 22, but not, there's nothing obvious such as, a big breakthrough or anything else. And everybody's up, the whole population back to the summer, so.
Yeah, yeah. We've been consistently low the last 3 months.
Yep.
And this has been one of our rainiest months, so. I
Yeah,
think-
June was the rainiest month, and then seventh rainiest, and I don't know how many years he said.
Yeah. Well, our average is right there, 15,000,
Yeah.
so. How do the bonds look?
Good, good. Been out there actually quite a bit. Duckweed is way down this year because of weather. Last year was stagnant weather and the hot weather and stuff. Duckweed grows like crazy, and this year it's way down. There's still some out there, but nothing like there was.
And that's a negative because the sun can't get.
Sun
to-
can't get through it, yeah. And let the microbes do what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what you kind of found out, what direction we're gonna have to go with that permit?
Every way we can. Yeah, I told you I spent a lot of time on the phone the last couple weeks talking to different people. And I've pointed in the right direction. Aaron, I've talked to him a couple times now, and that's who sent the email that started this whole thing.
And Aaron's with,
Aaron's-
Aaron is our representative from the NPCA or the engineer with the
He's the
NPCA?
engineer for that, and then Rachel is actually the permit writer.
Okay.
And she's the one I've been talking to both of them back and forth. Aaron, I told him, I said, I'd like to see a couple improvements on the pond without having to pull a permit or anything for it. And that's where we shot grade, we shot all the elevations last week on it, because there's two low spots, one in the first pond, one in the second pond, that could come up about 8 inches. And he says, as long as it's anything under a foot, he says, we just submit a plan and he okay it. So that was something we'll have to talk about too, if you guys want to approach it that way. But it's not a huge cost, but it's just be nice to bring everything back up level where it should be.
Okay, so based on what you're saying when you shot, and that's basically, the pond is dropped, and if water's gonna go over, that's the lowest spot for it
That's
to
the
go over
lowest
the wall.
spot for it to spill out, you know.
Okay, all right.
And if it was between the ponds, it wouldn't be no big deal,
Mhm.
but it's not. One's on the east side of the pond, one's on the southwest corner of the pond.
Are they both on the primary or one on the primary?
One's on the primary, one's on the secondary.
Okay, all right. And that'd be just, you're gonna put some sort of a bid together for that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but I'm figuring a couple loads of clay and some riprap and bring it back up. It's not a huge expense, but it'd just be nice to have it nice and flat and some plastic back on top of it.
All right, but that wouldn't be part of our
No,
permit.
we have nothing to do with the permit, just an upgrade. I was asking Aaron about all this other stuff, and then I brought that up to him, and he says, no, that's just, as long as it's less than a foot, and there's no major damage, structural damage to the ponds, we're fine with that.
Okay, so this is really, what you're talking about is really a PM, some preventive maintenance
Yep,
that
on
we should
that part.
probably do, right? And then we can decide if, depending on budget, where that has to
Yeah.
happen.
Yep.
But swinging back to the permit.
Back to the permit, no, that's where Rachel comes into play. She's the one it's got handed over to 3 different people in the last couple months because
Okay.
this Heidi left and another one left and another. But, she's been looking at it and stuff, and I talked to her a whole bunch about how phosphorus is gonna come into play with this. And
Okay.
that's where the game plan is. She wants a plan submitted to her of how we're gonna treat it. Not that they're gonna enforce it right away, but she says they're going to eventually, just not right away.
Okay, so can we write our permit, this outline for the permit that we're gonna present to them for our permit? Can it be written similar to our prior permit?
Yep.
Basically, the procedures that you take care of the system are really, you've changed them a little bit, but you've stayed within those guidelines that we presented to you when we hired you.
Yep, but there's been no major changes to it, so.
Okay, so we can almost take that procedures that we wrote up, and we can use that as a baseline to write this permit and
Yep.
present to the MPCA.
Yep.
So the work is kind of already done. Then on top of it, like an addendum, we're gonna tell them how we would treat for the phosphorus in the
Yep.
future once they ask us to do that, right?
Yep,
Now, one of the things that you did or you mentioned is that you went back and looked at what our phosphorus levels were from our readings, right? With the,
yep, been going back through and looking at it. The last test we had was 5.2.
okay,
It's been as high as, I think the highest I've seen was like 6,
Okay,
and the lowest I've seen is 4.7. So it's fluctuating some, but the phosphorus is something that'll never leave the water, it's always in there.
right,
There's no
right.
way to treat it, to get rid of it, it's there.
And the levels that they're talking about is like 4, they want to get below 4, right?
4.1, and it's a different, they have it per million gallons per liter, and the testing is million gallons per 100 gallons, I think. There's a difference there, and it's 2 different numbers. You gotta do the math and figure out which one, but yeah, we gotta get down quite a bit.
Okay,
And the phosphorus is basically this aluminum that we'll end up putting in there for part of his plan. Just grabs the phosphorus out of the water and sinks it to the bottom.
right.
Doesn't do nothing else, doesn't treat it, doesn't do nothing. You quick discharge, and then it floats back up and it's back in the water.
So basically, every discharge, we have to get down to a certain level. before
Yep,
we can
we'll
dump
have to
it
be
in
at a
the
certain
ground.
level. Then we'll have to test, like we normally do before we discharge, and probably once or twice while we're discharging. Just to make sure that it's not,
So we won't discharge unless we meet the right phosphorus. And then
Yep.
if we discharge and we're not there, there may be possible fines because we're dumping something too much of a higher level.
possibly, but I mean, if we're upfront about and tell them, you know, we've got to discharge, we have no other option.
Right. You gotta
There's,
get rid
there's
of
not a whole lot they're gonna save on it, you know, they're gonna make a notation of it, and that's
Right.
what it'll be.
it, right? And if we've used the system, then possible fines. I mean, just like anything else with them.
Yeah, for what I've done with NPC with discharges and cross cycles, if you're upfront and tell them what's going on, they're happy to help. Don't try to screw them.
As far as, so then you met with a chemical company?
Yeah, and John from Hawkinson, I actually met him in an emergency kind of meet last night at 5 o'clock, and he drove back with his big truck, and then we looked everything over, and he's figuring on the size of the ponds. He didn't get it to me, I was hoping he'd get it for the meeting, but
Okay.
about 350 gallons to treat it.
And is it liquid? Or
Yep,
it's
liquid. He said the liquid's a lot easier to work with than the powder.
Okay.
Because they do make a powder, and
Alright.
yeah, they don't recommend it.
And then basically, it's 2 possible ways. You could do it with a boat, but you're thinking about discharging or spraying it in by driving around the
That's,
ponds.
I'm thinking just because I can put a high pressure pump on it and spray it from all the way to the perimeter and make it all the way through it.
Okay, all right. As far as, now these are really, really rough numbers. You're kind of waiting, we shot some numbers that, I don't know if we should throw numbers out there right now, we should probably wait. I don't think we're gonna put numbers out there in budgets on that yet, because if I start throwing numbers out there, people might grab onto them, so if they're not.
Yeah.
So he did mention some numbers, they're reasonable, it's something that we'd have to.
Yeah, I don't think, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, you can throw them out there, I mean, it's not set in stone, but
Right. Well, I mean, basically the chemicals were right around 1,500.
about 1,200.
Yeah, 1,200 based on a treatment, and then he would have to figure out what his cost is to deliver it, right? So, I don't know, depending on how it goes, it's gonna get better and better as we go, he'll figure out a system, but he'll have to throw the actual time to put it out there and figure that in there, so, I don't know, we were throwing numbers right around $2,500 to $3,000 a treatment.
It might be less than that if it goes good,
Yeah.
which I think the first time will be a trial and error kind of, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Once we get to the point that they say, okay, now you've got it.
Right. But we don't know when they're gonna enforce it. But we
No.
have to have the plan in place, just like anything else. We have to have a plan to be able to react.
Have to put it in a budget.
Right, and then we have time to create a budget for it, or move money around here, which I think hopefully based on what we did, you know, raising our prices, kind of thinking this was coming, we have the monies that we need to take care of. But we still got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, but you're right. If you use the guidelines in the old firm and don't, she was pretty adamant about don't hearing about expansion. She says that's gonna be a whole separate ballgame again. When it gets back to expansion, then we'll talk about it again.
Right, so then we start over again.
Yeah, we start over again.
Right. And I think that's the approach we have to go, because we've been in limbo because of this for so
Yeah,
long.
yep.
Yeah.
That's why they wanna shore it up. She said, this is the time to get it tied up, and this is what you guys are doing.
Right. Let's get it in writing, let's put it to bed. I think it's really important, it's been in limbo a long, long time. Does anybody have any other questions on that? It's a lot to take in. I think we're gonna be working on it a little bit longer, but I think we've got a general guideline or a basis to work with. I think we should still meet, like we talked about that special meeting with the committee. I don't think we all have to get involved with it, but I think we'll have something put together for our next meeting that we can probably look at a draft and get it in front of them, because I think, we got like 30 days to get something in front of them, so.
Yeah, she didn't seem to be really a stickler, neither one of Aaron or Rachel seemed to be an issue that, I said, we're working on it, they're working on it.
All right.
And they were, we understand.
All right, well, I'll let you try to get information to us in the next week and a half, and then maybe we can set up a time that we can get together some evening. I think it was me, Gene,
Sure.
and you and Tina, and get some notes put together. All right, that's good, good plan, I like it.
Well, I just want to thank Terry, because this neighborhood has never known the ins and outs of how this all works, and the knowledge that you provide our neighborhood is priceless, and so thank you for holding our hand while we get through all this.
It's a learning curve.
It's a big one, and yeah, a year ago, what, ponds, what? So it's really great to be working with you.
And it's fun to go out there early in the morning or at night, because there's a lot of nice bucks out there.
All right,
There's another tree there.
old business, I think we're gonna snap back to that, expansion. Nothing really happened last month. I think I have my power bill now. I'll reach back out to Chris with that power bill and try to get that thing rolling again. Try to get that moving in the right direction. I'm gonna have a conversation with you. I think we're gonna need a little bit more help out of you, and in fact, you just start making some of that road, keeping that momentum, because I'm losing momentum on it with everything else that's happening. So I'm gonna start leaving on you guys a little bit. All right, new business, neighborhood night out. Who wants to talk about that, Sue?
Yes. I've been working on that a little bit, just on my own. I know that we asked for volunteers in the newsletter who wants to go in on that with me, planning it. What I want to ask the board is if there's any funds that could be used for that evening.
Yeah, we had discussed having an ice cream truck, right?
Well, that was one of the ideas.
Yeah.
I did check into the bounce house. They're
You
too
did?
expensive.
They're too
They're
expensive.
very expensive.
Okay.
The one ad I did answer, it said, $100, and when I went in and messaged the guy back and forth, that was for table and chair rentals. So, and being it's on a Friday night, we expect more people, and then, and then there may be, other people coming that would come with them. So based on how much funds we could get, my idea was it'd be about $200. But it would be, have bean bags for food, have hot dogs, cookies, lemonade. And, the Shorewood supply that. And then, so I went through and got not a budget, but an idea of what that cost would be, and it's about $250. Having it on a Friday night and not the original night when everybody else is having it. I was going to have the mayor, see if the fire department, the sheriff, and the RLIA come. Because not enough people, go to those meetings, and it would be nice. So I'm thinking we would get more representation for people to ask questions and
Okay.
find stuff out about.
Why don't you reach out to Rich about a fire truck to
Rich,
roll up?
oh yeah, we don't care where it comes from.
No.
So, and then, yeah, that's what I want to know. That's, the planning would go forward with what monies we want to use, if any, to support that night. Or if you guys have other,
What's your itemized list look like?
here. Be careful, it's been fondled quite a while.
any interest in having Rush City Bakery sponsor some, I don't know.
I could ask, you know, I did ask them one time for sponsoring, giving us something for the car show. And the answer I got there was they do so much for the community now. They give bread every week to the food shelf. We
They
get
do.
bread, they give
Yeah.
bakery goods to the
Yeah.
blood drives we have in town.
Yep.
They, you know, so, I mean, that's all Sam's Club, basically.
Yeah,
And I'm a member and,
the 100 chips, that's like the little bags?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
you know, and what do we have in the neighborhood, 100? What do we have? And not everyone would come, but those 100 pennies have couples.
Yeah,
So
kids
even
and
if
whatever.
half come,
Yeah,
I mean, just based on last year, we probably had, what, there was 50 people there.
yeah, and that was on a Tuesday. You know, you're gonna have weekenders come up and,
so yeah, 100, I would double it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks good.
I'd rather give money to that instead of the fireworks, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
We had $500 for updates and maintenance of the parks, but we've already spent that. So, but I mean, we have, that's, you know, the decision of the board, what you guys want to do with that, so.
Well, we haven't paid for the fireworks yet, so we can always, although the neighborhood, I wanted to get to that for the next.
Well, I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
why don't you just?
So, okay, so the fireworks survey, 6 people responded. 1 said no, 5 said yes, that they would like to contribute. 1 said no, 5 said yes, that they would like to contribute every year. And 3 people said 250, 1 person said 500, and then obviously the 1 person said 0. And then 1 also said whatever the group decides. So I would take that as, you know, 3 at 250 and then 4 whatever the group decides, so 4 at 250. So that seems to be the number that, out of the 6 people that responded, 250 seems like the number to be at annually.
How did you do the survey? I don't think I ever got anything.
It was on the
Was
website.
it on the website? Okay.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
think did something go up to the bill? To the,
It wasn't on the bill.
okay.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. Missed it.
No,
Sorry.
so is this for future fireworks, or are we reacting to this year?
I think
Well, the first question was for this year. And it was 5 to 1 yes. And then perpetually into the future, 5 to 1 yes. And then how much do you want to spend on the fireworks? And it was, 250 is the word.
So Matt, is this for the Flickerbird show?
Correct.
Okay, just to clarify, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Do we know what the other places give?
All I would,
Yeah, I was just curious.
I think RLIA, they dump a pretty good amount of
Yeah.
money.
It was like $5,000.
Oh.
Their budget's a lot bigger than ours. And they have good income.
That's a great income over there, great.
Hey,
Again, the reason that we even brought this up, so that people understand that are watching, is that the funding for the fireworks changed either last year or the year before. And I noticed a drastic reduction in the time of the fireworks show last year. I mean, it was under 10 minutes, and it had always been longer than that in the past. So I was asking around, and somebody had told me that funding had changed. I don't know if that's a fact. I didn't call up Flickerbirds and ask. But I know that they're asking for donations at Flickerbirds for the fireworks show.
Oh, they are.
Annually, or all year long. They have a jar out there or whatever for the fireworks show.
I think what happened there was, it was the cost. The cost of the shows went up.
Oh, okay.
So what they used to get for $10,000, they were only able to get half of that for the
it's just
same
like our
one.
groceries.
Yeah.
Because the prices of everything went up.
Eggs used to be
Gotcha.
29 cents a dozen, 50 years ago.
So,
And
has
our,
anybody thought about getting together with Evergreen Recycling over here and talking to them about getting one of those 10-yard can cage roll-off containers? See if they'd be willing to do something like that and put that next to the pump house down there. And everybody in the development can start bringing their aluminum cans there to help raise funds for this kind of stuff.
oh, that's a good idea.
Well,
I mean, I know he doesn't probably have any, but,
Would that be of no charge? Or,
well, what would happen is, say, let's just say that when the container's full, it weighs 1,000 pounds. So I'm assuming if we negotiate with him, maybe he keeps half of the weight for himself and we get the other half. I know like NRI down here, I think, they take a certain percentage of whatever they take in, but, I mean, even if you wanted to call them and see how that program works, because they have one that sits over here at Holiday for something.
That's for the fire department.
For what?
The fire department.
For the fire department, yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, that would be, good, but then we also would have to monitor it. You want people throwing a pop bottle in there or McDonald's bag as they go by.
Well,
It's.
but I mean, that's something, they deal with that everywhere, and these recycling centers, they know that, they're gonna get some of that in there, so it gets picked out and sorted out. I guess, everybody's got these good ideas about doing different things and like donating to the fireworks display and the national night outs and whatever. Something like that, it's just sitting there, it ain't costing anybody anything.
Yeah, we used to actually, I used to be a seasonal camper at Rush Resort.
Okay, yep.
And we would save cans all summer long, but of course, we just had them in bags and kept them down by the old boathouse. And then we took those in and cashed them in ourselves.
And that's something that we do too, but I mean, just this way, people don't have them sitting around their house, they're not, I don't know, it's just something for you guys to think about. And then nobody, when it's in that type of a container like that and somebody else is hauling it, then nobody here is on the hook to deal with it when it's full. Just make a phone call and have them come pick it up. We get it.
See how much.
Something
just
is
to
discussed.
see how much.
Shorewood Development gets a check for their part of it, and the container comes back empty, we fill it
Yeah,
in.
we can have Tina just call and see what that is, if they do that and what the charge is, just so we know if we continue with that.
It's a good idea.
I think, I worked over there for a while, I could try to get a hold of Tyson, I think he owns it now, or his co-owner in it. I can see if they have even just an enclosed dumpster, a regular dumpster, you wouldn't even have to be a caged one, but, because they do all their own hauling of their aluminum cans that they take in there too, so they'd be going from there to there, and that's it. So I'll see if, he's got if he's maybe got a cage container or something, that'd be great.
All right, well, let's circle back to the two questions at hand. What are we gonna do with the fireworks? Are we gonna approve $250 for that? Are we gonna do it this year, or are we gonna do it next year? The other question is are we gonna approve $250 for the national night out?
I myself would rather see the money go towards our national night out.
Let's, I think so too. Right now, we don't have a budget for either of them. So, I would say, I don't know if we kick that survey out a little bit more, just based on not everybody even knew about it. I think we only have a small sample size on the fireworks right now. So I think, I don't know if did we mention it in the newsletter about the fireworks?
Not the voting.
Not the voting, no, because,
Well, it'll be after the fact.
yeah, it'd be after the fact.
Maybe after the fact. I don't know what you put on the website for the voting for the fireworks, but I think I'd like to see a bigger sample size on that. If we can get that word out and we can kind of just pass it out at National Night Out. Please, take a look at the fireworks fund. We're talking about, kicking some money towards that.
Rich, from a budget perspective, wouldn't it be smarter to wait until next year?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Because we don't know for sure where mowing's gonna come in.
Yeah.
We don't know where plowing's gonna come in. Those are costs that can vary and.
Well, the expansion also with legal fees.
Right, and the legal fees for the expansion. And we've got a lot of things that are unknowns at this point that we're gonna have to pay for somehow.
Right.
Right, so before we tie our budget up too much, I think we should just, I support not giving money to the fireworks, I get that.
Yep.
But I think we have more pressing issues to deal with internally within Shorewood Park than donating to the fireworks.
Well, that's kind of where I was leaning too.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a small sample size, I know it's only 5 people. And I think we talk about it maybe, and people talk about it a little bit more, we're talking about it. I think it's a
We
great
can
idea.
bring it up, maybe we can even night out,
Yeah,
have sheets there, people vote, put them in a jar.
yeah, that's another thing to bring out. That's a good time when people can talk about it at that
Mhm.
time,
And then we could add it for a budget in the fall.
so, right.
So I first a motion to add the fireworks to our budget conversation in the fall and move forward with it this year.
Can I get a second to that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I-
All right,
I first a motion to extend $250 to pay for our refreshments for the Shorewood Night Out.
I second
all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. I just got off the phone when I stepped out. I called Dean Rasmussen. He is going to mow every other week.
Okay.
He's not going to mow. He mowed last week, so he's not going to mow tomorrow. And we're going to see how the grass is. We had a discussion about the length of the grass. There's a couple spots in our parks that get a little longer that he's concerned about. Only this year, he said. He said this year is a misnomer, just like last winter was a misnomer. So it's kind of all bets are off, but he said, yeah, I definitely want to work with you guys, and I won't mow tomorrow, and we'll see how it is on Tuesday. And I said, well, just, feel free to call Al or I about, how you feel the 2 weeks following that should be, depending on the weather. I'll kind of keep an eye on it. I know Andy is out there maintaining the fire pit. If you notice the grass getting long, let me know, let Al know. If it's, jungle, there's a jungle out there and it's just not manageable.
The whole top of the hill is pretty thick, so that doesn't get too bad.
And that's what Dean said too. He's
That
like, there's
hole
some.
holds a lot of moisture in it.
Yeah, he said down by the pump, the main part, the upper part, down by the water pump house, that's a dip. And then on the opposite side, there's like a swamp area, that's kind of a dip. And those are the 2 areas that get really long. Otherwise, he said it wouldn't be a problem at all. But
Yeah, it gets real swampy in front of Al's place and bottom down Birch.
Exactly.
That whole area right in there is just.
Right.
Right where the tree fell.
Right.
The swamp is back all.
All right, thank you for taking care of that.
And then I also wanted to mention about the waiver, the folks that want to help maintain Shorewood Parks. The waiver is now on the Roads and Parks page on our website. So you go to our website, click Roads and Parks. It's right at the top of that page. You can download the waiver, sign it, and then before you do any work in our parks, we ask that you turn in the waiver to a board member before you start working in the park. And then as soon as you do that, you can do whatever you'd like in the parks.
And I've got copies at home too.
So what do you mean you can do whatever you want?
You can clean up. You can help with cleanup.
Anyway,
Yeah, tree falls down.
okay. Voluntarily.
Voluntarily.
Volunteer work, yep, is what it's all about.
Yep.
All right. Is
So
there any
you
other-
don't want anybody doing it alone out there.
Right, let's be smart about it.
Yeah.
I think there's enough eyes and there's enough people here, we're all talking, I think. There's enough common sense in this room, I think,
Yeah.
in the park, in the whole park.
Right.
All right, any other issues, anything else we want to bring up? Anything else good, status quo?
We did what do you call it? Finding our
Oh,
line.
yeah.
Are those two flags are,
That's the property line right there, yeah.
okay,
And then that little pink patch in the road as you come around when you come first lanes, goes to the right. Little pink patch right in the middle road, that's the other corner.
Did you guys see the email that I
That's the
sent out?
southeast corner.
here's one.
To the where? Yeah.
Here's the second.
I think there's some bigger conversations, we can talk about that. I think,
Guy.
Mhm.
you know, we should respond to what he did
Here.
go, but I just don't want to approach it right now.
Yeah, it's right on.
That what Kevin sent us? Okay.
But then you got one that's up here. in that area.
Yeah, so the new sign has been designed and ordered.
Yep.
It's being shipped, and it should be received by the end of the week, early next week.
Yeah, is that,
And I would recommend that we put it on the speed limit sign that's currently there. But I would also recommend that we take out that pole, because it's kind of bent, you know? And we bought those poles with our signs.
We'll remount it, just bring it a little bit off that property line, because it was probably right on the line is where it was.
is that?
You mean
The
the,
one that came down.
okay, you want to move that instead?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of tucked back there.
Well, I thought just leave that there, let the landowner do with it as he wishes. And then the one that's closer to the road that's got the speed limit sign on it, it's a single.
Yep.
This new sign only has a top and a bottom. It's not the corners this time.
So straighten out the pole and mount it to that.
Yeah, we do have really nice, thick, new poles, so we can pull the whole thing out, put a new one in, so it's nice and straight.
All right, well, when that sign comes, we'll get located and we'll talk about.
Yeah, because those signs are definitely not too big to just put on a single post. So instead of having the double.
All right. Anything else?
I got one thing. I
Yes,
think we need to figure out a way to get people to slow down in the park. People are driving through like it's a racetrack. It's ridiculous. Not only cars and trucks, but four-wheelers, everything else. It's just getting nuts. And a lot of them are longtime residents that have been here and should know better. There's a lot of kids around the area now, and outside playing, and there's lots of dogs and stuff, and wildlife, you know, and these people are driving 30, 40 miles an hour through the park. Speed limit's 15. I don't know what we can do, but
all we can really do, I think, Tim, I think Matt just put a new sign out in front of his house where all the little kids are. All we can do is spread the word and try to, I think we need to take care of our own household first and have that conversation. Let's all try to, sometimes we lose track of who we are and what we're doing, but we just all need to really pay attention. I don't think we've talked about this before. There's nothing, we can't put speed bumps in.
right.
We have signs out already, right? You know, maybe it's something, you know, I think we probably mentioned it in the newsletter. Please follow this, you know, the speed limit signs. You know, it's something maybe we emphasize during that party is, hey, people, please, you know, it does, sometimes we get distracted, but, you know, once we're in here, you know, we should probably really slow down. The whole thing with the roads is, same thing with big equipment coming in. You know, we're really not enforcing that rule of what everybody, you know, putting $1,000 down either, right? It's really hard to collect. It's really on your honor on that too. These roads are an extension of our driveway. We're all responsible for them. So it's really, you know, if you're bringing contractors in, you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of, you have to maintain your contractors, right? You have to talk to them. You got to think about your neighbors, right? It's a neighbor. I don't know how to enforce it, Tim. Really, it's just communication. And I feel your frustration sometimes too.
You know, with that subject brought up and other things, I think it would be nice if you know, that night out, take the first 5 minutes, whatever, and kind of hit points that are really,
Just reminders.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, introduce, you know, everybody and, you know, we need blah, 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 and, you know, we work hard or whatever.
I think
Yeah.
that's our best time to do it, is whenever we get people. Other than that, it's just, hey,
Yeah,
you know, sometimes we don't feel like you're yelling at somebody when you ask them to slow down. And just approach them and say, hey, you just went a little fast this time. You know, I've kicked my wife sometimes, hey, you're going a little fast.
yeah.
Slow down, or my daughters when they're visiting, right?
This is an idea that I had, and I'm not a representative of INSOC or anything like that, but for those of you who read 1984, but something like offering our neighbors a $50 rebate to put up a camera that can monitor cars that are coming through, because then we have visual evidence of problem cars that keep coming through at a certain speed. I mean, because they're private roads, we really don't have a leg to stand on as far as like calling the police and having them patrol. So it's kind of on us. So that got me thinking, well, I don't want to create a surveillance state in our neighborhood. Maybe it would be something to, for those folks that are interested in doing something to combat this, would be to somewhat kind of, not totally subsidize, but offer a minor rebate to be a part of our quote-unquote net of surveillance of the roads, I know I'm laughing at myself on the inside, you guys. I don't know what to do about it. It drives me crazy too. I have young children.
What are those called that the cops don't like?
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little silly, a little crazier now, so I think it's something that's always been out there, and we just have to, I appreciate you bringing it up. And it does seem like it's been getting a little bit worse, and when does it get worse? It gets worse in the summertime, right?
For what it's worth, my kids are up and driving, and I said, I want to remind you that it's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm on the board. I don't want to hear that you were.
Sometimes that works.
Yeah, well, maybe it did. I don't know. Two teenage girls, and did you see them?
I appreciate you bringing it out, and I get it.
Yeah,
I
and
totally get it.
that, not only that, but I mean, it is. It's just you get, I think comfortable and thinking you're on a little city side road, 30 miles an hour, and we just gotta all work at abiding by the rules.
Work together on it.
Yeah.
That's an ongoing thing everywhere too,
Yeah.
and the township that I take care of. I will not put another sign up. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, we could put more signs up, but they're
It's
all
just
there,
an
I think.
absolute waste of money. We have 68 miles of roads, and it's
We just have
that's
to
horrible.
try to police it ourselves, and when you do see somebody, just kindly say, hey, can you please slow down? There's a lot, I worry about the kids, they're
Yeah.
all over, the dogs and the kids, and even, the morning walkers, when they go to work. It's like, wow, I gotta pay a little bit more attention. All right, anything else?
Channel?
Anything you want to update on the channel?
Oh, it's like herding cats, crazy cats. We're just at a standstill. We're waiting for the guy, the waterworks guy, to show the DNR the process. I just talked or sent him an email message. I'm doing a lot, so, instead of calling, because that doesn't work. I want to be able to verify. So he said he has a couple coming up. One is way far away, and he didn't think DNR would go that far, and the other one he would let me know. I told him, the sooner the better, because I said, the speed of our wonderful DNR, because once they see that, well, Tim knows, they see that process, they have to go back and roll that through all those departments. So I said, we're coming up, where we need to get an end, see what's happening. Other than going out there, it's very frustrating for me.
Is he doing these two jobs on a private property?
Yes, yeah. So that's where it stands. We're at a standstill, basically. And I'll try to have, some communication. The DNR guy, Craig said, he's ready to just go forward without the maintenance clause on one channel. His boss, this is going on 2 years. I checked when we started this was August of 22. So.
The one question I get asked is, when is
Sounds rough, yeah.
when is the anticipation of the start date, or is there an anticipation for like a start time?
It would be in the fall.
This coming fall?
Well, yes, if everything goes smoothly and
Okay.
all the, he has to write up a plan for us to give to you guys, and I reiterated that to him. And the plan was all along to do it in the fall, after the summer, people up on their boats and going out and all that, like after Labor Day. Last time it was October.
Yeah.
First part of October, and there's a spawning turtle going night-night thing, and that we have to be careful of.
Pay attention to that stuff.
How are the weeds on your channel over there?
Nasty.
Are they really bad?
They were
There's-
really bad.
There's always pond scum on our channel. There's no pond scum.
You know.
It's
the-
unbelievable.
The DNR, not the DNR, I'm sorry, RLIA sprayed the mouths of those,
Oh,
and that's why your signs were up in that channel. They didn't come down and spray, because they're private. But because they sprayed so close to the mouth of that channel,
yeah?
they had to alert that those chemicals would be coming down.
Oh,
That's why they did not do that over ours,
Oh.
you can tell.
oh.
They took loads, like 2 or 3 loads to the city
The guy wasted it.
dumpster, yeah. And now, I mean, if you come now, you can see where it's cleared out a little bit because you don't have the weeds grabbing the,
Pond scum.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.